another Tripping with the Smiths video. We are showing you guys all about the Jeep setup. I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
So we're looking at how we set up our HDT to double tow,
that part.
Yeah, the tools and hitches that we use for it, and how we monitor it, and just the way we go down the road with the Jeep, and just show you a little bit about how it tracks behind the trailer and whatnot. So if you have any questions about double towing, this may answer some of them, probably not all of them, but it'll answer a few questions.
So ask away.
All right. So this is the camera that we use to hitch the truck to the fifth wheel in the pin box, and it's at the right level to see the pin box really well and line it up. In fact, you can see in the camera this bolt, and this bolt is right at the center of the hitch, so I just lined this bolt up with the actual pin. The only real adjustments I have to make these days is the height of the trailer. Other than that, it's pretty easy to back up. This hitch is a trailer saver, and it's rated for 32,000 pounds, and we've got a third airbag on it that gives us a 7 or 7,500 pound pin weight capacity, so it's pretty stout. I wouldn't mind having a ET hitch, but my bed isn't designed for it, and it would require considerable rework to put that hitch in here, so we're sticking with the trailer saver. If you look past the mess there, up on the top of the drum box, there's another camera sticking up there. That camera gives me more of a bird's eye view of the rear. When the trailer's hooked up, it's pretty much worthless. I can just see the top of the trailer and the marker lights, but when the trailer's not hooked up, it's a really good wide angle rear view so that I can see traffic around me. Inside the truck, we've got a rear view safety monitor with multiple inputs, and my cameras are rear view safety as well. This is the view, you can kind of see it, of the pin box camera. And then if we go to here, this is the higher camera that's on the drum box. You can see it's got a pretty wide angle of view. Does well when you're not hooked up. And then there's a third view that we use for when we double tow, that right now we have no signal on because it's not plugged in, but it gives us the Jeep, and we can see the Jeep in the for some reason it doesn't want to turn off. We can see the Jeep in the that camera and watch it as we go down the road, so we can see if it's swinging or not, or if there's any issues. The other thing we do towing is that I actually run 2 dash cams just to make sure that when somebody does something stupid, I'm not going to be held responsible. So I've got a Garmin and a King Slim. The Garmin's been there forever. The King Slim is a new one, and I just run 2 just in case. You never know when something's going to fail. And if somebody pulls in front of me and I hit them, I would like to have some proof that it wasn't my fault. That mount is also for the phone, so that we can use it for navigation or whatever. We have this mount over here that I put a tablet in, a 7-inch tablet for navigation. It's dedicated just to navigation, so it's a really nice GPS, and I run a navigation app called Smart Truck Route 2 in it that allows me to input rig dimensions and whatnot, and it works pretty well. For double towing, we have the camera up there. That's the camera that came with the RV. I can't remember what brand it is, but I had to buy an adapter for it in order to wire to the camera system that I have. And then we had a receiver bolted onto the frame. I went to a local trailer shop there and bolted that onto the frame so that we can double tow. It's a little bit stouter than the factory one that was offered. And I wired a trailer plug directly from the pin box back here, ran the wire underneath the trailer, and then right now I've got it connected to a wireless transmitter that goes to these lights that are magnetic but don't work well on the Jeep. I strap them to the bikes actually behind the Jeep for our turn signals and brake lights. And right now we travel in the daytime 99% of the time, so marker lights and the rest isn't a big deal. I'm going to wire the Jeep, which is over there, with a regular standard RV brake setup, and wiring with a standard RV wiring hookup so that all its lights work. But right now the only lights that we have on it are the ones that are connected to the bike on the back of the Jeep. We use a Ready Brute Elite 2 with the integrated surge brake for our tow bar, and it works really well, and it's simple, and it doesn't require me to really do much to the Jeep. I had to put 2 cables in the Jeep, but that was all. We got new clevises for it, for the setup that I'm going to show you here in a minute, that we went with on this Jeep. And it's a pretty standard tow bar, nothing special about it. Just because it's here, the bikes go on this Kuat NV 2.0 rack. This rack has seen 5 years of abuse and even been backed through a block wall, so it's worked out pretty well. It's been on the back of the RV, it's been on the back of 2 different Jeeps, and the back of swivel wheel trailer as well, so it's been a trooper. It's starting to show some signs of its age, but it's done pretty well. For our last Jeep, we used a custom bumper in order to connect the Jeep to the trailer. And this Jeep, we kind of like the front bumper, we like the stock look of it, so we went a different route. We actually used mounting points from Maximus 3 and their torque arm, which I'll show you how it all works here in a little bit. But the first thing I'll do is just flip you around and show you the installation, or the way it looks anyways. The installation's already been done, but I'll show you the way that this setup looks on the Jeep and why we chose it. So hold on a second. So as you see here, let's go over to this one, it's easier to see because of the light. All we have is that red mounting point that comes through the skid plate, and then I added the recovery shackles to it to hook the emergency breakaway cables to. But this is really all we have as far as hooking up the tow bar. There's no base plate, there's nothing that goes across the front of the Jeep to get in the way of ground clearance. And then on this side we have the same thing. And if you look real close under there, you can see we did have to cut the skid plate a little bit, but it was pretty minor, it wasn't too tragic. A jigsaw with a metal cutting blade and a hole saw with a metal cutting blade, and it was all done. So that's how we mount how we connect the tow bar to the Jeep, is those hooks right there that are pretty inconspicuous and out of the way and don't affect ground clearance at all. And then we use the Ready Brake surge brake, which connects to that little eyelet there. I may have to relocate that once I decide to put a winch on the Jeep, but for now it works out really well. And we also use the Ready Brake emergency breakaway kit, which is that eyelet right behind the recovery point that goes through the cutout I made in the tow bar, or in the skid plate, sorry, not in the tow bar. And it connects to the emergency brake to pull it, and that requires us to also have this little breakaway kit. Basically what that does is it makes the brake, if the Jeep falls off the RV, it pulls the brake all the way to the floor and then locks it in place. And you can release it with the little button in the center, or little button on the back, not the center, and that white nylon screw. And you can see how stout those Maximus 3 plates are. They're pretty solid. They're mounted onto the front of the frame horn right there, and then we put a bar across it to create a triangle to make sure that there's no side forces on it that can bend the frame. I'll show you that once I hook up the Jeep to the trailer. So this is probably the hardest part about double towing, is getting this Jeep lined up and actually in the right place to hook up. And recently I discovered that the trail cam that's an option on the Jeep works out pretty well for getting us lined up. You can look at the yellow bars there and see that we're not lined up right now, but as we pull up, we can get it pretty well centered on the hitch. Make sure I don't run into the back of the trailer. And let's see how this does. There's getting it centered and then getting it the right distance as well. Looks like we're a little bit off to the left, but I think we're close enough that we should be able to get it done. But the trail cam, once you figure out how to use it, works out pretty good for seeing exactly where you're at, lining up. So hooking this thing up isn't really that hard. You've got your Ready Brute tow hitch, our Maximus 3 clevis, I guess tow loops, and then we've got the emergency breakaway and all that. So you take the clevises out, they're a little tight. And with the Maximus 3, you can get a quick disconnect kit, which is what I've got, and I'll show you why we have a quick disconnect kit for the torque arm here in a minute, but just make sure that that's upright, otherwise you got to unhook it and redo it. Then you lined up, so you can get it in there. This, slide it through, kind of get this lined up so you have some slack. Put that in, and then come over to the other side and do the same thing. Again, the quick disconnect needs to be up, or you're going to be redoing it. That lined up. Leave this in. I forget what these are called. The retainer pin in. So now it's connected. The emergency brake goes to the emergency brake grommet down here. Basically what this does is if the Jeep falls off, it'll yank this cable out. It'll put the brake all the way to the floor and lock that in place so the Jeep stops. Probably rather abruptly. Hopefully I will never have to try it. This is the actual brake. Connect it there. Now, this right here has a lot of slack, but the tow bar is not fully extended. Once it's extended, you should have just a little bit of play in it. And read your user's manual will tell you how much, but it's easier to hook it up when the tow bar is not fully extended because you got lots of slack to play with. Then you're going to take our breakaway cables, and I just leave them on the trailer, and I run 1, 2 each tow loop. One there, and one over here. And you can cross them if you want. I don't see that it's going to make much difference in this configuration, crossing them like a traditional trailer, so I just put them on that way. I also will take these ball bungees, which are wonderful, just to tie up this emergency brake cable, get it out of the way so it can't drag on something. And then finally you've got this pin right here that's really just a retainer pin. It's not doing anything at this point. It's used to keep this up and out of the way while you're moving when you don't have the Jeep connected. So you just put that in there and connect the retainer. And then we have to get the torque arm. So when we get that torque arm, we'll take this. You see the bolt spins freely, it doesn't matter. We'll grab these clips off. We just keep this in the back seat of the Jeep when we're traveling. When we're not traveling, we'll throw it in the truck. What this does is it drops onto here. And you can see that it's not always the same every time. Screw it in just a little bit. It's got retainers on there, or lock nuts that I haven't really tightened down much. I don't see that big a deal with that. So what we're doing is getting that on there, and then because we have these quick releases, we don't have to mess with bolts or wrenches or anything. Just do that, and that, and then you can snug down these locking nuts if you want. This right here was an add-on for Maximus 3. What they had found is that if they had some lateral forces without the torque arm, what would happen is it would bend this front frame horn a little bit, and in an accident or something like that, I guess it would bend it pretty significantly. So they added this to it so that it creates a triangle, which is a more stable shape, and it prevents that force from being applied to one of these things, and supposedly keeps it from bending. It's kind of like what you get when you have a base plate in place, except this is totally removable. So then to unhook, when we get someplace, it's just a matter of put the Jeep in park, put it back in, put the transfer case back in drive so it doesn't roll away, key thing, or put a brake on, but I just put it back in park, start it up, and make sure it's running and everything, and then it's just reverse the procedure, right? It's really pretty quick. Pop that off, can drop it there, or we can go put it in the Jeep. Either way works. We disconnect the brakes. It'll probably be locked out, so there's going to be a little bit of tension on this. What I do when that's the case is I just grab the loop here and I pull it and engage the brake and give me a little bit of slack. Drop that off, get this emergency brake off, undo the ball bungee, take the hooks off, the safety hooks, hook them back to the trailer. Back to the trailer, and then now we just need to disconnect it from the tow bar. Take that out. Back in there. Most of the time I yank that pin all the way off. You can let that hang down, it doesn't really matter. On this one, take the pin off. Sometimes you'll have to adjust the Jeep a little bit, but most of the time it works pretty good. Push that down. Put our clevis back through. Then we need to take this pin out, flop this up here, and then I just flop it off to the side, grab these back up, ball bungee, go ahead and just strap them in place so they don't drag on the ground. And then this pin goes back into the second hole and it holds it from flopping back down on the ground. Then turn it on there. And then we take the bar and I just throw it in the back seat on the floor. And that's really all the effort it takes to hook this thing up and unhook it. And that's one of the reasons why we went with double towing vice, putting it on the back of a 40-foot long HCT, which would be a royal pain in the butt, or any other solution. And that's why most people go ahead and flat tow these Jeeps, because they're super easy and super simple. It literally takes 2 minutes to unhook, and maybe if you're slow, 5 minutes to hook it up. That's all we got. For watching this video about the Jeep. I don't know if you can see it behind us, but we're about to get on the road. How the towing situation go. It's not that bad. We've gotten used to it.
Yeah, double towing is not that big a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit of extra complexity, but all in all, it's pretty painless. And is it worth it, Candace?
Yes. So it is.
Candace gets to spend the entire day doing whatever she wants on the computer, at the table now, or in the passenger seat, or laying down in the back if she wants to. So it's quite the luxury upgrade for her.
Yes, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you got any questions that were unanswered in the video, drop them below and share the video out to the ether. And you know, yeah, thank you. Thanks for watching again.
Thanks for watching.
Give us a thumbs up. You're not supposed to say over.
We can both say thanks.
No.
I'm showing my appreciation too.
Alright, y'all. Anyways, so give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if this is your first time seeing us, seeing whatever. Yeah, show us some love. Alright, see y'all in the next video.